The Black Ice Chronicles massive. This is Crazy D. Election day. 6 days until the beginning of the Black Ice Chronicles 6th season, with one we like to call Track. And then we have 4 days left until the TBIC 6 line focus reads for the next 10 episodes of the Black Ice Chronicles 6 2017. But what do I want to speak on today? Well, this is it. This is Election Day 2016. It's finally here. We will find out hopefully by the end of the night, by 9 p.m. Pacific time, 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time. Hopefully it goes no further than that. No later into the next morning and later into the night in on the west and on the east into the morning, no later than 12 midnight Eastern Standard and 9 p.m. Pacific time. Then we find out who the next president of the United States will be, the 45th president of the United States. So it's funny because either way, we've been talking about the white code, and you should go back and listen to, watch and listen to those different casts that I've put up before, speaking on this issue. But it's funny about the white code because either way, Trump has promised nothing to black people, and Hillary has promised nothing to black people. They've just not promised anything to black people. So we shouldn't expect to get anything for our vote. But we're going to see if the black people, because in the media they have been pushing that we have not come out to vote, that our numbers are low. So are we going to get up and do our duty and get out and vote, or are we going to sit this one out and hold our vote until we get better candidates that say that they're going to do something for us? I come from Ohio, and before we had Governor Kasich, we had Governor Strickland. All of Ohio, Ohio is like red. And for President Obama, we turned it purple, right? Almost blue. So when Ted Strickland was running to get his, I believe it was his second term, you can check that. He wanted to be reelected again. All of Ohio, in the southern Ohio, voted against him, and they voted for Kasich. And the power base in northern Ohio is Cuyahoga County. Cuyahoga County is majority black. And so Strickland had got on the news and he said he was waiting for the votes to come through from Cuyahoga County because there's where he would win the election. So he waited. And hopefully he didn't hold his breath, because the black folks in Cuyahoga County didn't too much care for Governor Strickland, because from what I could surmise, we remembered his brother with the 10-gallon cowboy hat with the scruffy beard, looking like Hank Williams Jr., except for his hair was white. And he seemed like, to us, just an from what I see. I'll just stick it to my opinion. From what I saw, he looked like a good old boy. And every time we think about a good old boy, we think about driving down to southern Ohio to Cincinnati and seeing that barn with the fucking Confederate flag on it. So it's always that equating that and seeing that Confederate flag and then thinking about his brother who looked like something like that. And though Governor Strickland had the 1950s haircut and he was clean cut, well shaven, wore the suit and the tie, you know, but he had this real pale skin and they voted his ass out. Now here's Hillary doing the same thing. President Obama is out there. He says he will take it as a personal insult. That's what he said at the CBC. He said he will take it as a personal insult if black folks don't get out and vote. And I said, well, damn, man, take that shit as a personal insult. Your legacy isn't our legacy. Shit. You know, he was like scolding the people for not getting out and vote. But since then, he's changed that because people spoke up and said, you know, that shit was some fucked up shit you said because you never talked to the whites like that. And they call you all kinds of coons and a watermelon eating, call your wife a monkey, all kinds of shit. And you never said nothing to them like that. But you talk to black folks like that because you think you could, you know, but you can't. Okay, so here's Hillary sitting up there doing the same thing that Ted Strickland was doing, saying, oh yes, Cuyahoga County is going to come through, and all the different black counties around the United States, the different states, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Ohio, you know, Michigan. They're looking for Detroit to come out. Detroit is in devastation. They're looking what happened just a few miles away from them in Flint, and they say our pipes are probably going to corrode to it sometime. So they're in devastation, but they're in now with the regentrification, more whites are coming back and getting those houses for a song and a dance. Very cheaply, $500, as long as they can bring it back up. So they regentrifying, so the whole works is on. But they expect the black community to come out and vote, though we're being regentrified and moved out of the neighborhoods that have great land value, and also cheaper water sewer bills. The further you go out into the suburbs, you're paying more for your sewer and water. Check that out. That's what the game is. That's why we're supposed to be trying to hold on instead of trying to move out and go out into the suburbs further and further with them. While we move out further and further with them, they move back into where the land is better, where it doesn't flood, where it doesn't. Okay, so here she is doing this. And they haven't promised us anything. Because when they did promise us something, now I've spoke on before about the Constitution and how it was about property, and after you got property, you were able to get land, and you used your property to work the land, and then that's how America grew and became the economic juggernaut that it became, right? So we're looking at that. So in the Constitution, we're property. So everything in the Constitution builds upon that. And what most people don't realize is that, hold up, I have to bring the exposure up. What most of us don't realize, because we don't read the Constitution, is everything builds in the Constitution. First, you're property, and because you were property, the people who had money to come buy property, then they would get land free. Because you're property, everything built upon it. So there's such a thing called the Louisiana Purchase, which included Louisiana and Ohio. And along with that comes the 3/5 compromise, which means that black folks on paper in the Constitution are still seen as 3/5 of a human being, meaning that you are chattel, meaning to be traded, meaning that you are considered less than human and no one needs to honor anything that they say to you. So nowadays they don't even promise you anything and you just go out there and vote. So we know ourselves that we are full human beings. Our people are the ones who created math, science, philosophy, built civilization, taught those who were in caves how to straighten their back, and etc., etc., etc. Go learn that. I don't have time to go into that with you. You know what I'm saying? You got to catch up. Got to read those chapters. Okay. So we know this. But what you learn when you study history, his story in particular, Europeans deal with what is on paper. That's why they are always passing laws. They always go back, they always say the Constitution is a living, breathing document. The founding fathers created this, and this is how they, so they always go back to, so Europeans think of paper. Our tradition is slightly different, as we had griots that passed down verbally the information, and then later we had Timbuktu and we wrote down all the information, and then later the Greeks came in and took what they could understand and destroyed the rest. You got to read those chapters. You got to know your history. Okay? So what's on paper for the European is gospel. So if they still have in the Constitution that black folks, because of the Louisiana Purchase and the agreement between, I believe it was the French and the Americans, you have to go check that, but I remembered this from history class. Because of the Louisiana Purchase, where it was Louisiana and Ohio, and they struck a deal as far as labor was concerned, which was the 3/5 compromise. Black people are still seen as 3/5 of a human being, and all laws build upon that. So when you look at the 13th Amendment, it says that there is no more slavery unless a person is duly convicted by etc., etc., etc. All right? So everything, all the laws build upon that. The 3 strikes law, the Rockefeller laws, everything was aimed at the same thing. So my question is, what the fuck was the CBC doing? The Congressional Black Caucus, all those years that were in there, they could have put legislation in to amend the 3/5 fucking compromise. If you're sitting in there, all they want to do, in my opinion, is sit up there and be able to eat lunch and dinner with those motherfuckers in Washington. And they didn't want to rock the boat. So here we are on election day going through the same damn things because those motherfuckers in the CBC sat up there and did nothing ever since their inception. They never went in and said, we're going to put in a legislation that is going to amend the 3/5 compromise. Once the 3/5 motherfucking compromise is amended in the Constitution, everything else falls as far as how they treat us, because remember, Europeans deal with what is on paper, and we have to become more informed, more intelligent about what's in that motherfucking Constitution to be able to not only survive this, but live. So, as you've seen, again in closing, let me bring down the exposure a little bit. Yeah, that looks good. Sun is coming up. And so in closing, you've seen that they have promised us nothing. Either one. Well, Trump did promise law and order, and you know what that means. That's more of the 3/5 compromise, more of the 13th Amendment. So that's it. Put this all together. Either way it goes, either person, we know what, if you watch the documentary 13th, I have to let you know that I learned all this way before. I learned this by going to the library back in the 90s, where the truth about the lies is buried. All right? I learned all this back in the late 80s, early 90s, because like I've told you before, I graduated from Catholic school, and you know, it was predominantly Polish, and we had to find out what the fuck was going on and why they were acting the way they were acting, and that's what brought me to my awareness. So the things that you're getting now, because we're in a visual age, and they always said if you want to hide something from a black person, put it in a book. So now we have the video age, and all you have to do is just go watch. So all these things that you are learning about now, I did the hard research with the Dewey Decimal System and having to go through and the bibliography and all that bullshit. You know, I learned all that. So, bottom line is, once you watch 13th, you will see what Hillary and them were about, which is what America is about. We are no longer valued because now they have to pay us. They have to pay 3/5 a living wage, because we weren't supposed to ever get paid. We weren't supposed to ever get free. That wasn't part of the bargain when they struck the Louisiana bargain, the Louisiana Purchase. Okay, so put it all together. Go research that shit. You know what I mean? Share this. Matter of fact, watch all of these that lead up to this. I'm going to have them all linked right underneath each other, because this is the day of the election, and then we'll be talking about either who's in and what we have to be doing next to not only survive but live and be seen, heard, recognized, appreciated, and our history being told true through our voices. So stay tuned. The Black Ice Chronicles.